Kat and Laurie.
Welcome everyone to the Wicked Housewives Club. You know, wicked as in good. And this is military spirituality, why I serve. So, Laurie, we've got an awesome guest tonight.
Yes, we do. We have Lieutenant General Roger Schultz with us this evening, and I'm going to introduce him and tell you a little bit about him. He completed 42 years and 9 months of uniform duty in the U.S. Army and the Army National Guard. Since leaving active duty, he has served in leadership positions in the private sector. Currently, he serves as the president of the Army Historical Foundation, whose main purpose is to build the Army Museum, scheduled for completion in 2019. Lieutenant General Schultz was called to active duty on 3 occasions. In 1968, he led both a rifle platoon and a scout platoon in Vietnam. In 1997, he was called to serve as the Deputy Director of Army Operations. In 1998, he was selected to serve as the Director of the Army National Guard. His 7-year tour of duty as the Director of the Army National Guard places him as the longest-serving director in the history of the National Guard. Lieutenant General Schultz is the first Army National Guard director to serve at the 3-star level. He is an instrument-rated and multi-engine rated commercial pilot, and his awards and decorations include, and this list is long, so hold on, Distinguished Service Medal, Legion of Merit, the Purple Heart, the Silver Star, the Bronze Star Medal, and the Combat Infantry Badge. How about that?
Wow, that is just amazing, Laurie. And talk about lifer. I thought my dad was a lifer at 32 years, but the general gives it a whole new definition. So, General Schultz, what drew you to military service in the first place? Why did you decide to serve?
Well, when I was a kid, I was always interested in mechanical things. So anything mechanical for me was easy. I had a certain knack for it all. So I grew up on a farm in northwest Iowa. In the course of that experience, I always wanted to be around cars and fixing things. And so I'm in high school now in Lamars, Iowa, and a recruiter from a local guard unit came over and said, we have a brand new unit, and this new unit's going to have armored personnel carriers, and they're looking for mechanics. And so a couple of buddies and I just signed up just to be mechanics in this brand new mechanized infantry unit. So that's how I got started.
Wow, that's amazing, Laurie.
Wow.
Can you imagine growing up on a farm in Iowa and then becoming a 3-star general that gets a Purple Heart? That's a book right there.
Yeah, I think we got to fill in the blanks between being a mechanic and getting to be a 3-star general. So, Roger, can you continue your story a little bit and tell us about your military service?
Sure. When I signed up, I was still in high school, so I had to finish high school. It took my parents' permission, obviously, to finish the enlistment papers. So after graduation from high school, I went to Fort Leonard Wood for my basic training. Then I was back home in the unit. I worked at a local General Motors garage, and also serving in a guard unit. So I still had my exposure day to day to all kinds of mechanical things. And then on nights and weekends, I was able to work with the local guard unit in their maintenance section. So I grew up, I actually had 4 years enlisted soldier time. And in the course of that journey, I picked up a unit motor sergeant assignment as a corporal, which was, as I reflect on it now, a phenomenal experience for a young person growing up. And so I finished 4 years in enlisted service, went off to the Iowa Military Academy, graduated there as a second lieutenant, and then went through a series of military training courses for the infantry specifically. Started college about the same time, and then from there I went through a series of lieutenant assignments, second lieutenant assignments as company commander, battalion commander, brigade commander later, and then I finished just short of 43 years later as the director of the Army National Guard. So quite a journey, but I reflect on my enlisted time with fond memories of growing up around some great people serving in our Army.
So you didn't have any other work experience outside of the Army forever. I mean, you just like
Really, I really did. I mean, I worked in a local. I need to back up just a second and tell you when I was in high school, I had 3 years of trades and industries. So from all my senior years in high school, I took a half a day each school day now, and I worked in a local General Motors garage. So I had industry experience just through my local General Motors shop experience. And in the Guard, of course, you don't serve full time in uniform. So I had some civilian experience in addition to my Guard time.
So when you were in the Guard, you were one of the weekend warriors.
Yeah, you can call it back then. That doesn't bother me really. We were proud of our unit, and we were quite capable, in fact, of doing our mission at the time.
Oh, those weekend warriors are awesome. The doctors that used to come onto the base, were some of the best doctors in the world. If you were going to get sick, you wanted to wait till they came onto the base. So tell us, what are you the most proud of about being in the military? Do you have like a story that you can tell us that kind of sums it all up?
I'm not sure about pride necessarily. My tour in Vietnam was certainly a satisfying tour, challenging beyond description in many of our missions. So it was a satisfying experience, and so I don't want to say that I was proud of it. I feel good about it. I was honored to serve with some great soldiers in Vietnam, courageous soldiers. I mean, they are some special group of our soldiers who grew up in the Army. Now, as far as as I reflect on being a director of the Guard, I was director of Guard, as you outlined in the introduction, for quite a period of time, and I feel right proud about the units, about the soldiers, about our leadership, and the way they responded to the nation's calling. And I'm talking now in particular about the response to our 9/11 attacks, and the way our nation and our military, in particular, since my own experience is in the Army, that was my point of reference. So. The way our units responded makes me feel right good. And there's one more thing I should just explain, and that is one of the things that I enjoyed most about serving with others is you get a chance to shape people who don't have the confidence. They're not necessarily convinced that they can meet all the requirements, or they're a little shy, or they're a little laid back. It doesn't mean they don't have the skill, but they lack that confidence to do things that perhaps they'd be uncomfortable doing unless they were pushed a little bit, or coached a little bit, or guided a little bit, or mentored a little bit. So as I reflect on my tour in uniform, I spent a fair amount of my time concentrating on helping those around me. And one of the reasons that I was so willing to do that is somebody, when I was a young kid, took the time to do that for me.
Mm-hmm. Lori, it's so hard to get these guys to take a bow. They're always over patting everybody else on the back. They're amazing. I mean, they don't even realize. I don't think they even realize they're doing that. Yeah, seriously, with all with the generals and the people that we're interviewing, they just they brag on everybody else, and they just kind of we have to drag it out of them.
Yeah. I know they're very humble by nature, and that's what we love about them.
Mm-hmm.
General Schultz, how did the military change you? Because your relationship with the military started very, very early in your life. How did it change you as a person?
Yeah, that's quite a story in itself. I was, of course, not out of high school, and so some friends of mine, and these are veterans, not much older than me, of course, back in the day, and they said, something, the Army's going to ruin you. And at the time, I didn't know what that meant. But now I'll get to your question. That is, the Army changed me beyond description, and we don't have time here to go through the full list, but I'll just give you a summary of the things that I think make a difference, or at least did for me. And that is, you learn about people that you otherwise would never meet. I'll give you just a quick example. In my little town near the farm I grew up, we had one person of minority in that town. And in that town, there was a college. That's the only reason this individual was in town at all. Otherwise, what would you see? You'd see a white Caucasian population growing up in Northwest Iowa. So I go to the Army, and what do you think I find? I find all kinds of people who aren't like me. An experience that is unique for sure. And one of the things I gained through my time in uniform is an appreciation for diversity and the value of people with different opinions and what does everybody else think. And it's not about if they look like me or think like me, it's a collective kind of consideration for rallying together. And I did the same thing in the combat, by the way, and that is you rally together toward a common purpose and you serve to complete a mission. And in the course of that outcome, that experience will change you. So for me, in terms of not only serving, and when you ask, why I joined, I joined to learn a skill. But after a while, you stay in the service for a very different set of reasons. And for me, that was a very different kind of experience. And for me, it changed me. No doubt it changed me. So not only do you learn about lots of people and how to interact, how to get along with others, the one thing the Army for sure taught me about was leadership. And so here I am now. I've now finished almost 43 years in uniform service. And a fellow from industry said to me, "Hey, Rod," he said, "I know the Army didn't teach you about business." He said, "I'll teach you about business." What may lead this company. And so the point is, you can translate all kinds of things from an experience in the Army infantry, and you can do this without great difficulty at all. It's a sense of discipline, a sense of purpose. And there's a certain confidence in it all, and I'm not talking about arrogance. That's not where I'm trying to take this discussion. It is about a self-confidence in a way that is quite an experience for a young person. And so the military, in my case, the Army, no doubt changed me from the time I was a kid, no doubt.
Mm-hmm. So, General Schultz, can you tell us about your work with the Army Historical Foundation and the importance of the Army Museum to the American people?
Sure. The United States Army does not have a place to tell our story in Northern Virginia, in the greater Washington area, in our nation's capital. If you can imagine, we have no place dedicated to telling our Army's story. And just for a second, we have over 30 million soldiers who have served in our Army, a phenomenal organization without any question. So our Army dates back even before our nation was created. And in the course of that, what we want to do is capture the stories of individuals and talk about and educate our citizens and those who might be interested about those who have served in our Army. And so we're going to have a story about, no doubt, those who really make our Army special. And this is over many, many years. And we go back even into the 1630s, the Massachusetts Bay Colonies, where the National Guard was started, 1636. So we'll tell those stories in founding our nation as an example. So why is this important? We want to educate those about our nation, about our Army, about the values, about what makes our nation special, and about the service and sacrifice of a special group of our soldiers.
And this doesn't happen all by itself. The Army Historical Foundation has been charged with the task of creating the museum, but they still need donations. And can you tell us, Roger, why we need donations and how we can donate?
Oh, sure. Armyhistory.org. Armyhistory.org is the place to start. And we have 151,000 plus donors to our project. So why is that significant? Because the Army Historical Foundation is building the museum for the Army. And in 2019, when we open the doors, we're going to turn the building over to the Army. But the funds to construct the museum all come from the Army Historical Foundation and our individual and corporate donors. So that's why it's so significant that we rally a campaign to make sure that we can not only construct the building, but that we open it on schedule.
This museum belongs to all Americans, not just people who served in the Army. So it's a great opportunity to help your government, to help the Army, and to give back to people who have protected you.
Don't you cry. You're going to make me cry. So we're all going to be blabbering, and we'll never get the general to come back on. This is the way that we share our past with our future. And so it is so important. This isn't something that we ever want to forget. And it is, all of these people who served our country need to be remembered. And their stories, like the generals, are absolutely amazing. What better way to show the future, the past, than with a museum?
Well, and you know, as we talk here, I know we're on a clock, but we tell stories about the Army and society. We tell stories about founding our nation. It's not all about war fighting. The Army has made an enormous contribution to our country, way beyond fighting our nation's wars as required.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a spirituality in the military that I talk about all the time. It has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with the way the military goes out and shows its humanity to the world, especially the American military. There is no other military like it. Like my dad would always say, we're the good guys. We're the good guys. So, you know, it's really important that the people who come and visit our country can go to that museum as well to see what it is that this country is so proud of. And, you know, the National Guard is right there in our backyard, Lori. I mean, it's right there on Cape Cod, and that's where it started.
That's right. And, you know, talk about being the good guys. Roger is the National Guard that comes out first when something happens in our own country. Mm-hmm. Can you talk to us more about 9/11 and what happened?
Who are you talking about?
As far as the National Guard was concerned?
Oh, yeah. I was actually about a mile from the Pentagon, and we knew just as soon as the first indication. We weren't certain what was happening in the New York towers, but after we had the other strike Pennsylvania and then down to the Pentagon, we realized we had a very different circumstance on our hand. And from that time, we started responding. I'm talking about the Army and Air National Guard started responding. And it was a very quick response across the country. And shortly after the 9/11 attacks, and I'm going to say a few months, we had 150,000+ soldiers on active duty. And we maintained that period of commitment for some years. A phenomenal kind of contribution on the part of both individuals, our families, and our employers. And that will make you feel right proud, because our Army is not large enough today in a full-time sense, but when you rally the Guard and Reserve to that response, then you have a much more capable Army.
Mm. Well, General Roger Schultz, we just want to thank you from the bottom of our heart for being on this show with us today and sharing all this great information and your stories, and you know, just kind of opening up our eyes to how wonderful this country is. You can be raised on a little farm in Iowa and become a 3-star general and go all over the world and meet all the different people that make our country so great. And then come on our show and tell us all about it.
Yeah, glad to do it, Kat and Lori. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. Thank you for being with us.